When I think of a Toyota Camry, a boring transportation appliance quickly comes to mind. However, when Toyota introduced this generation of the Camry back in 2017, the CEO of Toyota himself called this design sleek, sporty, and sexy. And today I'm standing by the next step of this generation Camry. Meet the 2020 Camry TRD, which stands for Toyota Racing Development. Now, in order to create the Camry TRD, the team swapped in stiffer, lower springs, they added a louder catback exhaust system, and it comes standard with a 301 horsepower V6 under the hood. So it's the sleekest and now the sportiest Camry that Toyota has ever produced. So the big question I want to answer is, has Toyota succeeded in making the Camry TRD an actual sports sedan? That's what we're here to find out. Now, TRD did not just stop with the suspension and the exhaust upgrades for this car. When you look at the design of the Camry TRD, you can see it has the familiarity that we've seen on the Camry XSE, but TRD did spice things up a little bit just by looking at the front fascia. Now, all Camry TRDs are kind of based off of the SE XSE trim. These are the bi-LED headlights, which are a combination, which comes standard. These are an LED low and high beam. You get an LED daytime running light, just an incandescent turn signal. If you guys look at an XSE or XLE, you have a full LED with an LED turn signal. So these are kind of the less expensive headlights, which are a little bit disappointing. I would have liked to see Toyota use the upgraded headlights on this car. The grille is very similar to the XSE, although the TRD version swaps in some more black accents. Some of the vents in here are fake, but this lower splitter you can see here is more aggressive. The car itself actually sits lower. Toyota says this car is about a ½ inch lower versus the regular Camry, which again gives this thing a much more aggressive looking stance to it. Now, looking at the car from the rest of the side proportions, the Camry TRD definitely gives off some boy racer looks to it, especially when you look at it from this angle of the vehicle. As you can see, my tester has a two-tone color combination. The black roof with the red exterior, this is called Supersonic Red, is a $500 upcharge. These wheels are also unique to the Camry TRD. They're a 19-inch wheel, just like the XSE. However, they're about a ½ inch wider and they're about 3 pounds lighter on each wheel. So this is definitely good for performance. The brakes have also been upgraded as well. The front rotors on the TRD are 1 inch larger. So these are nearly 13 inches in diameter. They also have 2 piston red painted calipers. So upgraded brakes. So Toyota's not messing around here. The TRD Camry has the necessary suspension upgrades. Now, Toyota also says that they've stiffened the shocks in this car. So the front is now more resistant to roll by about 44%. The rear is about 67% more resistant to roll. And then when you look at the rest of the proportions over here, I actually think the Camry looks the best from this rear angle here. Now, at first, I had my reservations about this wing pedestal type spoiler. Toyota actually told me that when they were designing this car, they actually had a bigger wing in mind, and at the last minute, they changed it to this more conservative wing. Let me know what you think in the comments below of this rear wing, because I think it actually does look good. As you can see here, just like the front headlights, the taillights are kind of an LED combination. These are not the full LED taillights that you get on the regular XSE and XLE Camrys, which is a little bit disappointing. Some of the badges back here are also blacked out. As you can see, there's a red TRD badge, which I think is a little bit blended in too much into the red color. And then down here, you can see this rear skirt also adds about an inch of length. This car itself is about 2 inches longer than the regular Camry. And then the performance-tuned catback exhaust, you can see, looks very good. It also sounds good. I'll let you hear what the engine sounds like real quick. And as you guys heard, with a standard V6 and that catback exhaust, this is easily one of the best sounding family sedans that I've ever heard that you can buy today. Now, when you open up the trunk, the little release for it is right here. When you do that, the Camry TRD's trunk is about the same as what you get in the standard Camry. It measures 15.1 cubic feet. Now, there is a V-brace back here that you can't see, that it is strengthening the chassis again. Because of that V-brace, you can't actually fold down the rear seats. So unlike the regular Camry, the seats do not fold down in the Camry TRD. So Toyota definitely made the outside of the Camry TRD to look very special. However, let's move on to the interior and see some of the changes that their racing team has made to the standard mundane Camry. Now, as you can see here, here's the key fob for the vehicle. The Toyota's intelligent access key with push button start does come standard. The key itself is identical to every other Camry. There's no like TRD badge here to kind of let you know or remind you that you bought the special Camry, especially once you get past the exterior looks. But as you approach the door handle, you can see, like every other Toyota, this touch that button over there or to that little ridge area over there that locks the door for you. To unlock it, there's a sensor in the back of the handle, and that unlocks the door for you. Now, as you can see, my tester has the red exterior. There's supersonic red exterior with your one choice only for the interior. This is kind of based off of the SE Camry, but with a leatherette material, with the red stitching, with the red accents. It definitely is a lot special, more special looking versus a regular Camry at a glance. The door panel here looks a little bit plain Jane for me. There's no red trim whatsoever. This isn't even, you know, padded in any kind of leather. It's lightly soft padded over here, but it's not stitched again. Those floor mats, you can see those are the TRD accessory floor mats for like 200 bucks from the dealer. They look good. Overall, the interior definitely isn't quite as changed or as spruced up versus the exterior. You can see the seats aren't any different. It would have been nice if they gave us slightly more aggressive bolstering. You do have a 10-way power driver seat, which is nice, but no memory seats. The seats themselves aren't even heated nor cooled. It would have been nice for Toyota to at least include a heated seat, especially considering this is a V6 model. Remember, the TRD is slightly decontented versus an XSE V6 or an XLE V6. Now, getting inside, immediately I do feel that this Camry sits lower. Remember, it's about a ½ inch lower than the standard Camry. You can see the steering wheel also looks fairly nice with its red stitching, but it's not any different from a regular Camry. It would have been nice if Toyota again did like a flat bottom wheel, made the steering wheel look a little bit nicer. Now, shutting the door, like every other Camry, it kind of has a slightly hollow sounding door slam, which doesn't really make it sound like it has a great quality impression at first, but if you guys are familiar with this generation Camry, the interior is very familiar. The materials quality in this car is pretty competitive. Let me first start it up. Ah yes, but that lovely TRD exhaust, which has a really nice rumble. You can see the gauges are nice and red tinted. This is the only Camry model to get the red tinted gauges. The exhaust definitely sounds better from the outside of this car. From the inside, you don't hear it quite as much, but it does have a nice throaty growl every time you start this car up. Now, the one thing that really drives me crazy, and for those of you who are a little bit OCD, the instrument panel here is red, but if you have it in normal or eco, it's a blue in the center, which, by the way, that screen is the smaller 4.2-inch helper screen versus the 7-inch display you got in the other V6 Camrys. Remember, this one is slightly decontented. The screen here is also only a 7-inch touchscreen. It does include Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, of course, which is nice. It definitely looks small, especially in today's 8, 9, 10, 12-inch screens. This 7-inch display looks small. Keep in mind, the other 6-cylinder Camrys have the slightly larger 8-inch display with the embedded GPS. So again, if you want GPS, you're gonna have to use, your phone, which is fine. Most people end up using their phones anyway, so that's kind of, what is in the norm today. The materials quality, you can see here, there's a soft touch injection molded plastic at the top. It's stitched over here with more of that leatherette stitching, although this stitching here does look a little bit fake. There's some textured silver trim here that's trying to look like aluminum, which is nice. Some of the gaps in here, there's some pretty large gaps in between some of the panels here in this generation Camry, which I don't love. A big CF piano black plastic over here, then you've got lots of knobs. Just a single zone automatic climate control on the V6 TRD Camrys, not the dual zone setup. You have your volume knob here, tuning knob over here. The location of the knobs, I don't love. I keep constantly grabbing this every time I'm trying to turn the radio up. You can, of course, use the steering wheel audio controls, which is nice. It does include paddle shifters. The wheel itself also tilt and telescoping. It offers a good amount of adjustability, which is good. I just wish it had like a TRD badge here, a flat bottom wheel, just something a little bit more aggressive than the standard SE and XSE Camry. This head unit, I've shown you it before, so I'm not going to go too much into detail with this. Obviously, there is a map button here that's linked to the GPS. There's no embedded GPS in this car. You can see there's the menu screen. It just looks a little bit small. Not my favorite in terms of the screen size, obviously. You can see there's your usual audio sources, your presets are over there. This will get you the job done, but if you're looking for a premium audio system like the JBLs you get in the other Camrys, this one just has a 6-speaker setup, which sounds weak. I imagine a lot of owners may be swapping out the stereos. If you guys plan to buy this car, because the audio system does sound a little bit weak. Over here, you lose your wireless phone charging pad. That's something that the 6-cylinder Camrys give you. You still have the storage here, but there's no more tray table, or there's still the tray, but there's no more wireless charging. Your USB port is over there. You have a standard, 12 volt as well. This controls the 8-speed automatic transmission, very traditional shifter. You even have a sport mode over there. in addition to the paddles on the wheel. I do like the shift knob that says TRD. You can see there's eco, normal, and sport settings for the transmission. Put the vehicle into reverse, you can see just a pretty basic backup camera. It doesn't even have trajectory, no parking sensors, no top-down 360, the bird's eye view. That's all reserved for the XSE and XLE Camrys if you guys go for that tech package, which my tester has. Also no heads-up display. That's available on some of the other Camrys. So remember, this is fairly decontented. You still got the electronic parking brake, 2 cup holders over here, padded center console with a good amount of storage, 2 more USB quick chargers there, which is nice. And then as I mentioned before, the seats have the TRD embroidered on the headrest, but they aren't any more aggressively bolstered. And if you guys are looking for a sunroof, Toyota doesn't offer one on the TRD Camry because I'm guessing that's for structural integrity, but I think it's more for cost cutting. Remember, you can get a full pano roof on some of the other Camrys. I wish Toyota would offer the full red interior like they offer on the XSE. The XSE has a much nicer looking cabin because of that red interior. This is the only interior color you can get on a TRD Camry. Open up the glove box, you can see it's a pretty good size. It's not lined with felt, but it is damped. I did notice the stuff in here kind of slides around, so during the test drive you might hear that stuff moving around a little bit as we go through the corners. But overall, the interior of the TRD Camry, it is fairly nicely upgraded. I like the red gauges, but I hate how the rest of the interior doesn't match that. It's blue lit at night here versus the red lit over here. Toyota should have just went with an all red interior illumination. There isn't really much in terms of fancy LED lighting, but remember, the TRD Camry is about $4 grand less than a V6 Camry, so you're going to be losing some of the tech equipment. Thankfully, you still get Toyota Safety Sense P 2.0. You still have push button start. You still have LED headlights. But if you guys want the fancier stuff, be sure to look at the other V6 Camry trims. So because the Camry TRD is still a Camry, the back seat is pretty usable. Now the Camry's back seat, this new generation, isn't the biggest back seat in the segment. Toyota says you get around 38 inches of legroom, which is pretty good, but you should know that cars like the Volkswagen Passat and the Honda Accord do offer a little bit more legroom. This is still very good though when you look at the specs. The TRD version doesn't have the premium touches like rear seat air vents or heated rear seats, unfortunately. And as you can see here, the seats are just like the front seats. They're a little bit more unique. You have the same fancy red seat belts, which add about 5 horsepower. I was just kidding about that. Annoyingly, there is no armrest right here. This here doesn't actually have the fold-out armrest, so just keep in mind that the upgraded versions of the V6 Camrys do have a little more features when you look at the back seat. Now, as the sportiest Camry that Toyota has ever built, you better believe that the company stuffed their 3.5-liter V6 under the hood. Now, this is the corporate engine that we've known for years. It's a 3.5-liter V6 with direct and port injection. It still makes 301 horsepower and 267 pound-feet of torque. Now, those are the same numbers that you're going to find in the regular V6 Camry. So, unfortunately, the TRD team did not touch the engine or the transmission, but what they did add is they added a strut tower brace to the chassis, which helps stiffen up everything. It's going to improve the handling. Now, the Camry TRD is still only front-wheel drive. Toyota did not add all-wheel drive, and there is no limited slip differential to this car, so I'll be curious to see how it actually turns out when we get this vehicle out on the road. You only get one transmission choice. It's an 8-speed automatic transmission. Sorry if you guys are looking to shift it yourself. You're going to be stuck using the paddle shifters of the 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, the Camry TRD weighs about the same as the regular V6. This one here, as it sits, is just under 3,600 pounds, and fuel economy is rated at 22 in the city, 31 on the highway, which is a 1 mpg reduction versus the regular V6 Camry, and you can still use this thing with just regular gas. All right, so I know what some of you may be thinking. The terms Camry and sports sedan just simply don't go together. And for years, the Camry has been well known for being a reliable, basic, but also boring transportation appliance. So the TRD Camry, interesting addition to the lineup. Let's see how this thing actually accelerates. Let's put it into sport mode here. Remember, this car is only front-wheel drive. It doesn't have a limited slip diff. Let's just turn off the traction control. Let's put our foot down here and see what it does. Oh, Jesus Christ, this thing literally left 2 black lines all over the pavement. That is just ridiculous. Surprisingly, though, it didn't have as much torque steer as I thought it would have. I was expecting this thing to have more torque steer. I mean, I did have to counter steer it just a little bit to get the car to stay going straight, because remember, 301 horsepower to just the front wheels. We're going to be running into some traction issues, so I think Toyota should consider maybe putting some fatter tires. Now, keep in mind, you can get summer tires on this TRD Camry if you'd like, which should improve the traction. My tester, of course, because it is January here in the DC area, has some all-season Michelin tires on it, so that will be affecting the traction. Now, The TRD team at Toyota didn't just slap on a big body kit and a big wing and call it a day. They did improve the handling of this car via lowering springs, so it's a 1/2 inch lower. It's got a stiffer chassis from all the additional chassis stiffness that they've added. And with that TRD exhaust, you know, this does have some nice upgrades, including the big brakes. I mean, Camrys have never had upgraded brakes before. So it is rather impressive that Toyota did go to those means to make the TRD Camry a more serious driving machine. And remember, this generation Camry, based on this, you know, TNGA architecture, is the sportiest and sleekest Camry that Toyota has ever produced. And the TRD just kind of takes it to another level. As you can see here, going around these corners, putting my foot down here, this is one seriously fast car, and it's super impressive that, you know, a Camry offers this level of performance. The performance this car gives me kind of reminds me of the level of performance I used to get in some German sports sedans about 10 years ago, especially with, you know, over 300 horsepower, an 8-speed automatic transmission. Really, the car feels like it's not quite all the way there for it being a sports sedan because Toyota, they didn't touch the engine and trans. Now the 8-speed automatic in this car is a good transmission in a Camry, but in a TRD Camry, I expected a little bit more. I expected it to be a little more sharp, a little more responsive. I expected the engine to have a little more gusto, and it just feels a little bit weak sauce at times. Now this car does come with paddles, and when you start playing with the paddles, the car actually will rev match slightly. But it will also upshift automatically for you if you're not paying attention. But ooh, I like that little rev matchy downshift that it did there. It's an impressive overall car, but it's also still comfortable. Man, this thing really just takes corners really well. The steering also has a surprising amount of heft and feedback to it. But the ride quality of this car doesn't also punish you. That's the one beauty about the Camry TRD. Even though this is a stiffer, lower car, I feel that it's stiffer. It still handles, you know, well, but it also has a ride quality that won't beat you up. Now, granted, Grandma, who's trading in her Camry LE or XLE, will get into this and probably think it's a little too stiff. I also think that the seats aren't aggressively bolstered enough to hold you in place during aggressive cornering. I feel my butt kind of sliding around this thing everywhere, so I need a little bit more cushioning. I need a little bit more, you know, support to keep me from flailing around. Visibility in here is also good. The wing out back doesn't get in the way, which is nice. It's a very subtle wing, although it looks a little boy racer from certain angles at the back. But overall, let's try another acceleration there, and this time I'm going to leave the traction control on in the Camry. We'll leave it in sport mode. Let's see how bad the wheel spin is. It's cutting power there. And it short shifts at around 6,400 RPM, but you should get to 60 in about 5.8 seconds. This is quick. It's about as quick as everything else in this segment, like the new Accord. The Subaru Legacy also is about this quick, but you get all-wheel drive with the Subaru. Toyota is offering all-wheel drive on the Camry, which I'll be driving next month in Park City. However, all-wheel drive is only going to be available on the 4-cylinder, which is a huge disappointment. Toyota really needs to stuff it on this V6 because it could use the all-wheel drive traction. The noise in this car is also nice. I like the exhaust. Let's take a listen to it one more time. It has a nice throaty, smooth baritone. It's also very free revving. It's a really good engine, but it's not terribly drony. Some of the TRD trucks that I've driven from Toyota with their TRD catback exhaust can get a little drony. This has just the right amount of noise to it. See, there we go. It upshifted automatically for me, which is not what I wanted it to do when I have it in its manual mode. So, transmission programming, I wish Toyota had made it, you know, a little bit quicker shifting, didn't make it so it shifts automatically for me. The engine itself also has, you know, good amount of power, very smooth, likes to rev. So overall, they did it right with the 6-cylinder in this car. It's a great powertrain, handles well, rides nicely, it's quiet, it's comfortable. I do miss some of the tech features you get on the XSE, for example, like the blind spot monitoring. It's a pity that this car does not have blind spot monitoring, especially at this price point. So after spending some time with the all-new 2020 Camry TRD, I'm pretty happy to report that Toyota has definitely outdone themselves with this car. They have managed to create the sleekest and sportiest Camry ever, and really it shocks me to think that a Camry could handle and sound this good just from, you know, the rest of the vanilla flavors that they offer within the Camry family. Is this thing an actual sports sedan? No. Unfortunately, the Toyota TRD team was not able to touch the transmission. They were not able to touch the engine. They weren't able to add all-wheel drive or a limited slip diff. So there are some aspects of this car that still kind of remind me it's just a Camry with a much better suspension tune, with a big wing, with better brakes and a nice sounding exhaust. However, Toyota kept it that way for a price point, because if Toyota was going to add some engineering to this car to make it have more horsepower, to add all-wheel drive, to make the transmission shift a lot better, this could easily be a $40,000 Camry. I think that's kind of the appeal. Even though this car looks like the Fast and the Furious, it still is very comfortable to drive, it's very practical to use, and it actually does attract a lot of attention. Driving this thing around for the past week, I did get a lot of people stare, probably from the big wing on the back, which I hated at first, but I have to admit is starting to grow on me. Now, the best thing about the Camry TRD is the price, because remember, as I said, this is the cheapest way to get a V6 Camry now, and it's the only offering in the mainstream segment to offer a 6-cylinder. At a starting price of around $31,000 plus destination, this is literally only about $5 grand more than a basic LE Camry with a 4-cylinder engine, and really it's a strong deal. My tester here with the red paint for another $500, the TRD floor mats for like another $200, stickers for a little over $32,995, and that's still, again, a screaming deal. It's about $4,000 less expensive than a Camry XSE, but you should know, remember, this car is missing some tech features. I would like it to have blind spot monitoring, I'd like it to have a sunroof, I'd like it to offer the bigger 8-inch screen. What I want Toyota to do is offer perhaps like a premium package on this car to bring it up to around $35,000 to give buyers who want the luxury features like heated seats for this thing, because I love the way it looks. I just think that Toyota maybe kept the pricing a little too in check, and they decontented it a little too much on the inside for my personal taste. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on this 2020 Toyota Camry TRD. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews. Like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.